It looks like we are streaming. We are live.
Okay.
Are
If
we?
you check it on
Let me
YouTube.
refresh it. It still says waiting. Ah, there we go. Yeah, refreshed it.
Yeah, is it going? Okay.
Yep.
Right. Okay, we're live streaming, so we can start.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Hello, everyone. Doing this in, knock on wood, in text and voice. And so we'll go ahead and begin. This is primarily regarding Foley or sound effects in machinima, but I'm going to touch on some other topics because they are related. So off we go. There's a box of examples right here, which my avatar is pointing to. You can buy them for $0. That also includes the text of the talk that I'm about to give. And I am posting the URL of the stream. And we shall get started here. Foley is defined as the reproduction of everyday sound effects that are added to videos and other media in post-production to enhance audio quality. Oh, please, I forgot to lock the screen, so please don't click on it. These reproduced sounds, named after sound effects artist Jack Foley, can be anything from swishing of clothing to footsteps, to squeaky doors, or breaking glass, for examples. In the old days, even predating my personal ancient oldness, Foley really was a part of an art of a very unique kind. Let's watch a quick video of some early Disney Foley artists at work on the big screen or at this link, please. Anytime you would like to start, 3, 2, 1.
I think we have an error. There's a little error in the stream. Let me see if I can fix that.
Okay, I'll hold for a sec, but
Yeah.
I can also repost the link if that is necessary.
Let's see, I'll make a shorter link. That usually helps. It's a live event. These things happen. And it's in the player. Let's watch it. Yeah, the video just rolled and it just finished in the live stream, so it was loud and clear.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. So, was it a living then? I honestly don't know. Is it now? It is for very few people. We will not need to learn the actual art, obviously, but it is worth our time to see what a few professionals have to say about it and how it works. The important descriptions of how to approach it are explained by two Foley artists, current day Foley artists, in this video. And we can go ahead and watch this one, please.
Okay.
And this gives us, I think, the key to the whole thing.
Dit is Linda, eindelijk thuis na een lange werkdag. Klaar om de keuken in te duiken en nieuwe smaken.
Alright, you ready to try one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, the screen is running. Double click in the middle, please. Restart now. Yeah.
Alright, you ready to try one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Alright, you ready to try one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You stream the rest of the first cue?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a level. I'm Sarah Mona, and I'm a Foley artist.
And I'm Robin Harlan, and I'm a Foley artist. Foley is the art of recreating the sound effects for feature films and television.
The sounds that people make, their footsteps, the things they touch.
One of the ways I look at creating a sound effects is I kind of look at sound. The large sound goes in first.
So he's got it on 11 tracks, on 12.
12 tracks.
As if you're creating a mosaic, right? So you want your large tiles all to go in first. And then the Foley effects come in as the grout. So if you've done a really good job, all of the things that are big sounds and big effects, they're going to be able to present themselves. And then the Foley is something that you don't want to be seeing, but you want it to fill in all the cracks.
When you get to walk a character, when you have to do their footsteps, it's very helpful to actually watch the project or see it before you're doing it. So you get a real sense of who this character is, what they're doing, when the emotional times. If someone's angry, they walk very differently. If they're happy, and you really kind of create the character.
And I think sometimes when you're walking a character, you have to really get into it. You have to get into the performance, and if you're walking a big guy, you start really becoming that character.
In the real world, when you're walking around, you start to sit there at a cafe and you listen, right? And you listen for people walking by and you go, ooh, I would have thought that shoe made a little sound, but it doesn't. But what, you really start to listen to the chair that you're sitting in and how it's creaking. And then that little piece of silverware that, when you removed your napkin from under it, did it ching? You make that sweet little sound, and how glasses clink together. So it all can become really music, right? Sound effects can be music.
If someone gets stabbed, pull the knife, and then you'll add like a knife shing or something like that. So you layer it. I think people that would be good at this job, where they would need certain skills, I think you definitely want to have attention to detail. Mm-hmm. You want to have sync being able to be in sync. I mean, it is a skill that you acquire over the more you do it, but there is an innate sense of story, and I think you got to be quite physically fit.
I think the best way for someone to prepare themselves to be a Foley artist, if that's really what they want to do, is make sure they hone their skills in performance, dance, music. Those things are important to apply to what we do.
Be interested in all of it, so that when you, it's not just the full, I mean, to know about all the aspects of sound and to be open to it, I think is really important.
Hey, interesting. Yeah, stop playing for me. Don't know about you guys.
Oh, did it complete?
Yes.
Okay.
It did.
Yes.
It did.
Yes. Thank you very well. So we'll proceed. I liked the analogy. So taking that analogy of a mosaic, in the sound department, we use the voice and music tracks as the tiles. Then we add the Foley, which serves as the grout, so to speak. Additional tracks in our editing software. So let's look at that a bit. First, here's the way that I set it up very basically in Movie Studio 17 Platinum, the editing software that I use. It's not the best, but it works. I'm mainly a sound guy, so it's got unlimited soundtracks. That's all I really care about. When I have the elements of the machinima project loaded into my editor, I'll create a minimum of 6 audio tracks, usually more than that to work with. This demonstration is just a small demonstration with 6 audio tracks. So first I put the main voice track highlighted on the left menu of the editing timeline on this slide. I usually place the main voice track directly beneath the video element. It's the way I do it, I suggest, but you may have a better way of doing it. The secondary voice track, because due to the constantly charmingly beta aspects of Second Life, sometimes things just don't go exactly as planned, as we all well know. And so that is what I usually have the second in my audio order. Next, I have at least one music track and occasionally more. And more a bit later, or actually a little bit more now, you'll see here that I have my secondary voice track as the third one down on my timeline. That is because I'm using that track for both secondary voice and for room tones. Room tones are the ambiances of any given scene, which is here. Sound effects tracks, one for room tones, which is how I refer to the sound effects built into the virtual world's region that I'm recording. So the environmental sound effect, okay? Next, oh, somebody clicked it. That's what says, please don't click. But okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So the first Foley track is shown here. And then at the bottom, the secondary Foley track. So that's just in very simple terms how I tend to map it out. You may very well decide to do it differently. There's no rule on this, obviously. Oops, I don't want to do self-advertising. Let's briefly consider the tiles of the mosaic, as the analogy places it. The music track. Copyright, copyright, copyright. YouTube, Vimeo, and the few others that I've used have very effective bots that will analyze the sounds and music that you have in your project during the upload process. It could take days or more. If somebody makes a complaint about it days after they've accepted it, they'll still shut it down and your piece will be silenced. I'll bet that's happened to many of you. It is not a fun thing. Once I bought licenses for a number of musical pieces and applied them, but didn't bother to properly store the copyright information. Bad Lorin. This was a very painful experience that did cost me in the lack of trust from a longtime client who was actually a friend. And so that really hurt. The best way to avoid this, of course, is to create your own music, which I often do. But, if you license music, retain all information and clearly state any necessary attributions in your project's post, in the video itself, in the credits, in the video's description. Drill it home every possible way that you can. I urge this. On voice tracks, since these will often be scripted rather than spoken live during the video recordings, of course there are exceptions, the best options for the voice talent are to, number one, have the talent record on their home systems using good microphones when available. Obviously, not everybody has a good microphone. I'm not using one now. I'm using just one that's built into the computer. Number two, save the files with easily referenced file names in your folder for the specific project, and at least 44.1 kilohertz bit wave files, 16-bit wave files, if they needed to be loaded, present tense, if they need to be loaded up into Second Life. If they don't, I would suggest doing 48 kilohertz 16-bit wave recordings, or of course AIFF. If you're using Mac, it doesn't matter. Whatever is the best for you. Just the best quality that you can get is going to be to your advantage. The better the initial recordings are done, the fewer post-production nightmares that obviously you're going to have later, which some of you have probably experienced. I have. Recording the voice in Second Life is not recommended, though sometimes we have to do it due to the nature of the project. Should that be necessary, it's wise to get at least 2 versions of every important voice part, because, for example, there might be latency in the recording. You'll miss one word that screws up your entire recording, so you got to go back and do it again. It's just not worth it. Get 2 versions of every one. That is my suggestion. Thanks to Safia, Ulrich, and Chantel, I've learned that recording voice parts in Skype is advisable when voice talent can't record their own at home. A few notes about the music tracks, sound effects in machinima productions. We're not talking about entire songs, but just music as a sound effect. So, he said, being redundant on treating music as sound effects. Music can provide impact and can be more effective if, for example, a loud musical part of a piece can be hammered at a high volume, which then fades out, or conversely, a soft part that can rise up in volume to match whatever drama that you have happening on screen. One thing I'll add to that is when you are editing the video of your piece to music, it is often a great thing, it's a great rule of thumb to do, if you're doing jump cuts, just cuts without crossfades or anything, do it on the beat of the music. It just makes it that more effective to do in that manner. It may not be noticed by many people. It will be noticed by musicians, but it makes for a tighter and more compelling presentation, in my personal opinion. We should always be mindful not to make background music parts become a distraction, but rather an embellishment. And so embellishing with short musical sound effects. Some common musical sound effects are known as, and I'll play 3 examples of each of these as I describe them. Rises or risers. So here we go, there's a rise. Here's one of my favorite risers, which just will rip your spine. And there's another. Stings or stingers. Here's a slow sting. And here's a multiple sting. Your sound effects. It's local. The stream. It'll make it into the stream, I suspect. I should have better prepared that. My bad. I should have mentioned that these are locally played. These are downshifters or descents. And one more, which will be the whooshes. Whooshes can be very useful. As opposed to, say, a sword whoosh or something like that. These are music whooshes. Now, of course, some of those are more musical than others, but they can be very useful. So there are also slams, stabs, impacts, all kinds of things that you can use for that. In your little box here that you should buy for $0, and it also includes the text of this discussion. Oh yes, that would work very well in DJ sets, Matt. Grab this box for $0. That's got all of these examples built in. Feel free to use them in any projects, of course. Very welcome. So keep those in mind as ways to make visual impacts all the more effective. They can really help. As for Foley itself now, finally getting to that, I'm just going to go through some rules of thumb that apply only to me, and they may apply to you or not. This is comprised of sounds and movements and objects that we expect to hear when we see the action occur on screen. It definitely does not need to bash the viewer in the head, volume-wise. It can be whispered, just very softly, or sometimes, there, yeah, baby, in your face, but generally not always in your face. Don't overdo it. For any given machinima piece, always prepare by compiling a file folder filled with the sounds that are expected to be used, assuming that I'll need to either find or create others as the development of the piece moves forward. I go 2 minutes in and I see this little thing in the background happening that I hadn't expected, so I got to make a sound for it to fit in. You know, things like that. It can't hurt to have royalty-free sound effects libraries in your stash, or a number of them. As you might assume, I have a considerable amount. Disney, Sony, Universal, Fox, BBC, and hundreds of smaller companies that only concentrate on sound effects make these. You can find them if you look, and there are many sources for finding individual sound effects for those difficult to individual sounds that you may need. For example, Sound Dogs, free sound, of course, but free sound's quality is not of the best. Pond 5, I recommend Pond 5 because I sell sound effects there, so buy mine. Sorry. As I assign channels for a project, I always look at it from a macro view to begin with, so that the project's timeline, you know, the estimated final timeline, how many scenes and sub-scenes there will be, how many sounds I might expect to have to use in those sounds. They will widely vary generally speaking, as far as how many Foley type sound effects you may need for a given scene. Sometimes all of a sudden you'll end up having to pile tons of them in without expecting it to. How to do that? While many scenes won't require much, some, others will. So let's go there briefly. First, let's get the room tone out of the way, just the way to establish it. If the area in which you're capturing video has an environmental soundscape built in, and it's important, it's best to just park the avatar there and record it in advance. And that way you've got it. It's the room tone. Whether it's a room or not, it's a desert, fine. It's a desert tone. Record that and have it in the background so that you don't actually need it on the video track itself. Because Lord knows what else could happen behind you during that video track. It's better to have those in the can, ready to go, as their own entities. Hoping that some tiny avatar doesn't come by and start to river dance in the middle of it. Yes, room tone equals ambience, atmospheric, whatever you want to call it. I generally just use the term room tone as a generic term. Sometimes the built-in soundscapes, frankly, will suck. So, pardon my indelicacy, but that will sometimes mean that you have to make your own that will fit the mood or atmosphere that you were trying to recreate or create for the first time in your machinima project. The room tone can be important, so I recommend not letting it fall to the side. Don't go silent, for heaven's sakes. Please consider it, whether it's good at the source or you need to make your own. It doesn't have to be heard, it has to be felt. Okay, that's very important. So, how many additional tracks once we get all that stuff in place? We should always consider the benefits and downsides to assigning specific tracks to left, right, and center, for example, in stereo sound mosaics. Or if you're brave and you want to do a surround sound, do it in 5 channels. But it is certainly very rare that we need it for our purposes, and pretty rare that you need it at all, just given the lack of perfect surround playback, for example, even in YouTube or anything like that. Aside from the left-right center approach on a few occasions with very dense sound effects requirements, I found it necessary to do individual scenes alone to be mixed into the final project. So if I've got to use 20 tracks of Foley on one scene, I'm not going to have to sit there and deal with those 20 tracks all the way through my editing time. I'm just going to do that scene, get it out of the way, and dump it in after. Now, usually, well, given the fact that the timings on some sound effects need to be very precise, of course, it's more effective to have the ability to zoom in, work in terms of milliseconds, to tighten things up, to match the video elements, rather than deal with a stack of, as I said, 20 tracks all the way through your project. Another option that I've used has been to render X number of tracks into a stereo mix, import the stereo mix, eliminate the tracks that are no longer needed, and add whatever the final touches are required. In other words, overdubbing. As I say, crudely stated, but it's overdubbing nonetheless. As the post-production editors, it's our job to do the best that we can with the tools that we have. Mine are not the greatest, but I can get by with them, and create our voice, music, and sound effects mosaics. Time is often in short supply, so if the project is important to us and our clients, of course it always is, but we end up losing a bit of sleep, chugging coffee, taking time and care to attend to the small details that can make the vital difference in the final project. It's the little things often that really, really matter, especially in sound. I apologize for having condensed this broad subject matter into a relatively brief presentation. Could have been briefer, actually, but I am happy to answer any questions now or in private at a later time, so please fire them at me if you've got any. And I would prefer to answer in voice, but Chantal, if you need it in text as well, I can do that. So thank you for your kind compliments. I'm trying. So many of you have helped me in so many ways. It's my time to pay back a little bit, so I'm doing my best.
This is really wonderful, Lorin. And if people want to ask questions in voice, that's fine. And all the text is usually collected by Ataro and then posted on Facebook. So we can give you the text of Lorin's presentation, Ataro, if you want. Thank you so much, Lorin. I have a ton of questions, but I'll let the others go first. So ask in text or in voice, whatever you prefer.
Yes, please do.
So Pat is asking, can you have too many audio tracks? So they would interfere with each other?
Not to my knowledge. It depends on how you mix them. You can, of course, in practice, you can have too many. Oh no, electronically, depending on your editing software. But I have never run across a situation where, from a technical standpoint, beyond manageability, I've never run across it a large number of sound effects tracks, causing any interference or problems other than the challenge of keeping track of them all as you're editing the project. But technically, no, you can't.
Okay, then Eva's asking, can you talk a little bit about your choice in software?
I can speak about that. Since I'm a disabled person who is on a fixed budget, of course I have limited expenses. The video editing software that I use, I managed to get very inexpensively. It was less than $50 US, I think. This Movie Maker Pro, and now it's thousands of dollars. Their next version of it.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So I got it at a lucky time. Again, this isn't the perfect suite for it, but it's functional. I'll get to that in just a second, Amar. Yes, it is super expensive. I saw that they have an offer of like $900 off. I was saying, oh boy, I'm glad I got the one I got. For other software, my main audio editor, I use SoundForge. I have always used SoundForge. In fact, I was yes, Vegas was a Sony Music Maker. It's passed through so many different companies that the name really doesn't matter. I don't even know who's selling it now. Magix was the last one I bought it from. But anyway, as far as audio software, I use SoundForge. I got on early with them. I was a beta tester on their first version decades ago. And so still, I get it at a fairly good price. It's expensive software. You can also use the best free software, of course, is, whatchamacallit, Audacity, which it has a fantastic user interface for free software. I use that for specific things. I also, for looped music work, I do Vegas Acid, or Sony Acid, actually. And I use other music creation software, but my main choices for machinima. For audio, it is SoundForge all the way. I love SoundForge, and then Sony Music Maker. And I hope that answered that question. As far as Amar, what was that again about files? Please repeat the question. I'm sorry, Amar.
I think it was about MP4 or WAV. What's the best? I think WAV is always the best, if you can. Or am I wrong?
For sound files, WAV is uncompressed if you do it properly. MP4 is compressed, although it's an excellent form of compression. Most people will not hear the difference. And since I'm not going to discourage you from using MP4, if it is what you use, it's not going to make a huge difference. Wave or FLAC. FLAC is condensed, but not as badly as MP3. Always avoid using MP3. It is the S word. It sucks. I'll just say it. It's highly, badly yucky. FLAC is very good, actually.
Prida had a question about that too. When you record your own sound effect, do you need a good microphone and sound recording equipment?
Yes. Don't record the sounds with your microphone, for one. record it internally, when you can avoid it anyway. If you're doing real Foley, like making the sound yourself, then use a good mic. If you are recording it from another source digitally, of course, avoid using microphones and just record it directly. I think that answered the question. However, if there's a delineation of it, please let me know.
I often have a problem, Lorin, when I record sounds, like I needed the sound of birds for a machinima. So I got up early, go outside with I have a Sennheiser, the H4, and I thought I had a beautiful bird singing, waking up in the morning. And then only when I played it on my computer, I heard the bakery next door, the humming and the clicking. You don't hear that when you record it, but listening back to it, you need a really good ear as well, don't you?
Yes. So that particular Sennheiser is a condenser, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I think it is a condenser. And condensers condense. So, in other words, it will pick stuff up that you are... the Sennheisers. I'll tell you a story, a quick one about a Sennheiser in a minute. But a condenser is made to sit there and suck the sound in. I would say drink it in, but no, it sucks it in. That's the function of a condenser microphone. So often what you don't hear, it will hear. It will hear, and it will pick up. If the baby is crying next door, you don't hear it at the time, a condenser could hear it. So that is why. For recording birds, Safia's not hearing the stream.
Does anybody else have
that?
Anybody else not hearing
for recording birds, you could use a regular non-condenser. Oh, okay. All right, we're there. But I hope that answered the question. Oh, quick thing about Sennheiser microphones. In 1982, when I was at Chico State University, I was doing stagehand work to help pay for my tuition. And one day I was setting up for a Rick Derringer concert. They had a bunch of boom stands sitting on the end of the stage, at the edge of the stage, some idiot did. And two of them, overweighted with Sennheiser 401 microphones, fell off the stage, and one of them, the case cracked open and pieces flew everywhere, and they took it and threw it away. I said, "Hey, can I take that out of the trash can and keep it?" They said, "Yeah, sure." And so I duct taped, gaff taped that Sennheiser 401 up. That was in 1981. I still use it. It still works fine today. Gaff tape and all. So Sennheiser, damn good mic. Anyway, sorry. That's a favorite story of mine, and perfectly true. Yay, gaff tape, yes. What's dark and white and keeps the world and holds the world together? Not the force, it's gaff tape. Anyway, any other questions, please? Okay, well, if I have done my part, I hope I have supplied some information that others can use. Thank you all again, and thank you, Chantel, for this wonderful forum. where I'm able to learn from all of these fine people every time I come.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's so
You're
helpful.
great.
I so often find that the audio is like the closing part, and it should be they're both equally important, the visuals and the audio. So yeah, I think you made that point very clear too. Very important. And I'm also asking if people want to buy sound effects. Of course, they can contact you, and maybe for some advice if things go wrong.
In that box of goodies there, here with your free effects files to use, also is a landmark to my shop if you care to find anything, or just contact me. If it's not in my shop, I can make it. So I'm always happy to help.
Okay, well, rest me to
And
say.
that's enough advertising. I'll get rid of my advertisement there.
No, that's fine. I think people don't advertise enough because often we spend days looking
That's
for
okay.
good audio, and if people know who you are and what you do, you're making life easy. That's not advertising. You're helping us.
Oh yeah. No, if anybody needs sound effects, certainly for in-world stuff, I've got them, or I can make them. If Evangeliva, just let me know. Oh yes.
Okay, question by Amos.
Can-
Question.
That's a good question, Amar. Even if you make them sound effects, you can't just download them from Second Life like you can with textures, for example. What you can do is, and it gets a little dicey if you do this, but you can do it. I'm not suggesting that you do this to bypass copyright, but I'm suggesting that you can do it by playing the sound effect in world while your, say, Audacity or whatever is recording, and then that's a way to get sound effects that you own from in-world to your computer for use out of world. Now, if for example, if you buy sound effects from me and you want them, I can just email them to you, just if you ask me. So you don't have to go through that because it's kind of a pain to do that. It is possible, though.
Wonderful.
Yes, unfortunately, you cannot just download them, even if you own them. Or, even if you made them, you can't download them again.
Okay, are there any more questions? I'll be closing the live stream in a minute. So I see Zemo is typing.
Gee, you always have the coolest avatars.
Yes. And I believe Zemo's brother works for real life movies, so he knows a bit about it. In my humble opinion, audio is more important than the video images.
It can be, depending on the project, but it can be. I agree. Lucas agrees. A lot of people agree, and Lucas pays for the top dogs.
Yeah. Well, I do know that I will not watch a video when the audio is bad. I'll switch it off after a few minutes, depending on how bad it is.
Yes.
Even
Yes,
if the movie is good.
Safia Elric will tell you exactly. Shut up! I'm getting a room tone. Damn it!
Yeah. Well,
That's
how many people did know about the room tone or the background noise, as we call it? And it's so important for a filmmaker to know this.
It's very important from my perspective, anyway. And as I said before, it doesn't have to be in your face at all. It has to be felt. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, when a horror movie is scaring me, I turn the sound off.
All of a sudden, not so bad.
Okay, there's another. Mo says, exactly, when audio is disturbed, we turn it off or leave the space. But when a video TV image has some interference, we can handle it fine, because it's not so immersive as audio. I think that's a very good point.
It is. The sound is important. And so that's why I stress that it's a good idea to pay attention to it. I paid more attention to it, for example, in the most recent videos I did, because I'm not so hot on the video part of it, so I had to make up for it.
Well, your Fantasy Fair entrance of you and Judy, it had perfect audio. So, yeah. Story is king, audio is the castle, and video is the banquet. That's a good one. Yeah. When I worked for a TV station, they would send me back if I didn't have a separate recording from the ambience, as we call it in Second Life. The wind or the cars in the distance or just the silence is important. It's the trick to making a good film. Okay, no more questions? If you have the link at hand, Sophia, we could run the film, Judy's jaunt. I'm running too many things on my computer, it's almost exploding. It is a good example of audio well used.
Or people could just look it up. I didn't grab the URL in advance. I hadn't thought to.
Sophia might have it at hand, I hope. That's a good idea.
I deliberately had all other programs closed while I did this, just because.
It's about self-promotion.
Yeah, Chantal, if you have a hard time digging that up, I'll see if I can find it really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, but we're...
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to run into Safia's time here.
Okay. 1 minute. No, I'll just put it in and then we'll... It is a good example of how audio works in a film. And then we'll all go to Sophia's. Well, we're early, so... Okay, the film is in the screen. If you double click it, and I'll close the live stream after this.
Oh no! It wasn't me. It wasn't me. No, 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 no. Not me, not me, not me. Somebody else. Uh-oh. The warranty says it's valid for sand removal. What do you mean it's valid on Tatooine but not in ancient Egypt? Maybe enforced by Imperial stormtroopers? Oh no! These sandstorms! Sand between my toes. I'll never get it out of my fare. And bet the fallen god doesn't have to lick his feet clean. He probably has someone to do it for him. Oh. It wasn't me. No, not me. Somebody else. No. Put me down on the path before you start to play. I'm going shopping. Oh my God! No! Wake up! Oh, swallow that! Have fish breath! Uh-oh. The short paw of the Lord. Her feet are hot from all that walking. Uh-oh. A charge scroll? Did vandalize the crystal steps of Mythspire Ridge. Did litter the ancient city of Opet with forbidden and useless tech. Oh. Did destroy a bridge in Living Echoes. Oh. Unauthorized bathing and nocturne moon? How'd you find out about that so fast? Don't know about the tadpoles, huh? No, wasn't us. Thousand lindens in the Fairchild kiosk. Yes, officer. 998, 999, 1000. Oh well, there's always next year.